Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us for the community observation of Martin Luther King Jr. Day in Westchester and Liberty Townships. I'm Pastor Lowell Mickelson, and I serve at Lord of Life Lutheran Church here in Westchester. I will be your host for today's program. The purpose of our celebration is fourfold: to provide a family-friendly, community-wide event to focus attention on why we celebrate this national holiday, to consciously examine the values and ideals that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his life to defend, to allow our community a time and a place to consider how his dream lives on in our lives today, and to evaluate how effectively we are reaching the goals of mutual benefit that he proposed. Some of the ways that we accomplish this is by hearing from local students as they share what they have learned about something of the unsung heroes in the civil rights movement. We also have the opportunity today to listen to and learn from our distinguished keynote speaker, who will challenge us to consider the question, WWMD, what would Martin do? Earlier today, the March for Unity in our community took place, starting in Westchester and ending in Liberty Township, symbolically linking our two communities together. We are a community that embraces moments like this as we strive towards racial reconciliation. Walking peacefully to celebrate our growing unity is one of the visible ways we can share in Dr. King's hope-filled dream, while also meeting new friends and building rapport with like-minded neighbors. So we are off to a good start already. Let us now begin our celebration by inviting Almighty God to guide our time and open our hearts and minds. Let us pray. O God, whose name is above all names, your grace cannot be contained within human limits. We offer our thanks for holy wisdom that comes in other voices, in religions and worldviews different from our own, and in prayers offered in the wideness of your love. Move us more deeply into understanding and partnership, willing to work together in mutual respect, always open to the grace that we have experienced in you, our light and our life. Amen. Spirituals played an integral role in the life of enslaved African Americans as a means to express their deepest longings and hope for a better life. Listen now and sing along if you want as the community choir shares the song Guide My Feet, directed and accompanied by John Johns, music director at Lord of Life Lutheran Church.
Hold my hand while
What a blessing to have so many who help guide our feet while we run this race. In addition to musicians and vocalists who lead us today, we also give thanks for children and youth who direct our steps towards greater compassion and understanding. Presenting the awards to the student contest winners are Mr. Matt Miller, Superintendent of the Lakota Local School District, and Mr. Ray Murray, owner and operator of Choice Hotels and sponsor of the awards given.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ray, and this is Lori. Lori and I have been tasked many years ago to present the awards with Mr. Miller, and Lori keeps me on task. She's the one who got the plaques and the gift cards for the kids and everything, and it's just wonderful. This is my favorite part of the ceremony itself here, with all of these young folks sitting up here, so calm and everything, but they still have to read their essays and everything. But not to make it any tense for you or anything, but this is my favorite part here. This year's student contest theme was Unsung Heroes. The Live the Dream Committee encouraged our students to select and research individuals, groups, and organizations that worked in solidarity with Dr. King. I'm happy to share that over 600 students submitted essays, artwork, and other creative responses that solidified our youth's understanding of the moment in history and its lasting effect. Today's winners represent the best we received in each category, and we're especially proud to share their work with the community.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Miller, proud superintendent at Lakota Schools. Celebrating diversity and embracing inclusion is a big part of what we do every day. It's the entire focus of the team making up Lakota's Outreach, Diversity, and Inclusion Department. On behalf of Lakota Local Schools, this program has become a tradition in our schools and something our students and staff look forward to every year. It gives our students an opportunity to reflect on our history and even share their perspective about what work remains to be done in the future. We are proud to recognize this year's student winners. Representing the Early Childhood School category, Early Childhood School Fine Art winner Olivia Abbs, a second grader in Miss Getz's class at Shawnee Early Childhood School, for her piece about Georgia Gilmore.
Georgia was a cook at the National Lunch Company in downtown Montgomery, Alabama. Georgia was cooking when she heard that Rosa Parks got arrested for not letting a white man take her seat. A flyer was passed around in Montgomery saying everyone stay off Montgomery buses. She didn't ride the buses because of the boycott. She went to Oak Street Baptist Church, where Martin Luther King Jr. was speaking about justice, righteousness, freedom, and segregation because he didn't think segregation was right. Her cooking helped the boycott by selling food at the meetings at Oak Street Baptist Church. She used the money to buy gas for the cars that moved people around who weren't riding buses. People of Montgomery loved Georgia's food. She cooked chicken, pies, and other kinds of food. Every Monday and Thursday, she would walk up to Holt Street Baptist Church meeting and announce how much her money her group, called the Club from Nowhere, had made. Policemen were there at the meetings trying to figure out what they were doing. So Georgia didn't pay any attention to them and said she made the money from nowhere. She got fired from her job because she was part of the boycott. Martin Luther King Jr. gave her money to start her own business at her house. Everyone came to Georgia's place to eat. She got lots and lots of money and kept giving it to the boycott. Georgia was cooking when she found out that segregation on buses was illegal. I got information about Georgia Gilmore from the book Pies from Nowhere. I made a pie because Georgia Gilmore made a pie with food she sold for the boycott.
Our early childhood school essay winner is Paige Bachelor, a kindergartner in Miss Cavender's class at Creekside Early Childhood School. She wrote a book titled Ruby Bridges, the Brave.
Ruby Bridget by Paige Bachelor. When Ruby Bridget was 6, she went to a white school for white children. People were mean to her and said mean words, but she kept going to learn. One day when she got to school, she stopped and said a prayer, asking Jesus to forgive the people even though they were saying mean things. Even though they were saying mean things. She is smart, she is nice, she is forgiving, she still loved the people even though they were saying mean things. She is a hero because she is brave.
I always love hearing about Ruby Bridges. Now, congratulations to our elementary level winners. Elementary English language learner winner is Suvet Dekal, a 6th grader in Miss Harvey's class at Independence, who wrote about Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks once said, "You must never be fearful about what you're doing when it is right." She encouraged people to think creatively. She also became a hero for people who were fighting for equality to Black people and stood up against racism. Rosa Parks was the first lady of civil rights and the mother of the freedom movement. Also, in 1979, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People awarded Rosa Parks the Spingarn Medal, and in 1980, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People awarded Rosa Parks the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Award. She also received a Congressional Gold Medal in 1999. In 1996, President Cleon presented Rosa Parks with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Rosa Parks was a key figure in the civil rights movement because she sparked the Montgomery bus boycott. She worked closely with Dr. King and was an important leader in the fight for justice. On December 1, 1955, Rosa Parks had to go to jail just like Dr. King. She had to go to jail because she didn't give up her seat to a white person. She said that people always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired, but that isn't true. I was not tired physically, no. I was tired of being treated like a second-class citizen. James Blake was the person who told Rosa Parks and the other African Americans to move. He said, "Move, y'all, I want those 2 seats." She also said that she didn't believe that she should move because of her race, even though that was the law. She even got jailed for a few hours, but Edgar Daniel Nixon released her out of the jail, joined by white friends, Clifford Durr, an attorney, and his wife, Virginia. At the end, Montgomery bus boycott was a 13-month mass protest that ended with the Supreme Court ruling that segregation on public buses is unconstitutional. Even after the boycott, her life wasn't easy for her. She had to go through harassments and threats. Rosa Parks stood by Dr. King. She met Dr. King through the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and Montgomery Improvement Association, supported her case resulting her arrest in Montgomery, Alabama bus. The two organizations saw Rosa Parks' arrest as the last straw in the way African Americans were treated on the bus system of the city. Rosa Parks became an international icon of antagonism to racial segregation and organized with civil rights leaders, including Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat and strike down segregation on city buses. The Montgomery bus boycott made Dr. King a national civil rights leader and mesmerizing symbol of Black equality. The thought that Dr. King gave of the boycott was, "We came to see that in the long run, it is more honorable to walk in dignity than to ride in humiliation. So we decided to substitute tired feet for tired souls and walk the streets of Montgomery." Rosa Parks said, "Stand for something or you will fall for the ground. Today's mighty oak is yesterday's nut that held its ground." Rosa Parks' action supported and helped the overall success of civil rights movement. She helped by doing a lot of helpful and nice things. One of the many big things she did was not give up her seat and violated the city's rule. Her actions helped raise international awareness of racism in the United States. Her arrest is considered to be the motivation that flamed the civil rights movement. She also was an active member of the League of Women Voters. Rosa Parks once said, "To bring about change, you must not be afraid to take the first step. We will fail when we fail to try." That quote is very powerful and important in life. Rosa Parks was a key figure in the civil rights movement. All of the things that she did for Blacks and gave the rights that people needed was amazing. She was a hero. Rosa Parks once said, "I would like to be remembered as a person who wanted to be free, so other people will also be free." If she wouldn't have stood up for herself in the Montgomery bus boycott, would the world have been the same? If she wasn't brave enough to say no to James Blake, would Blacks have the same rights we have right now? Thank you.
Thank you for that essay about Ms. Parks. I'm sure your teacher is proud of you for referring and doing all the reference work. That's not easy to do, what you just did there. The next person we have is elementary special merit essay winner, Benton Lehman. Benton is a sixth grader in Mrs. Smith's class at Independence who spotlighted Coretta Scott King's efforts.
Coretta Scott King met Martin Luther King in Lincoln High School. Her story is about being involved in the civil rights movement. Started in Lincoln High School when she met Martin Luther King in 1954. Later, in 1968, Martin Luther King got shot and died. She was devastated because of her husband's random shooting, but she resumed her work. Coretta Scott King was important to the civil rights movement because she supported her husband to work tirelessly for equal rights and memorializing King after his death. Miss King helped Martin Luther King by becoming a part of the national civil rights movement. Coretta vowed to continue to be an activist in the civil rights movement after his death. She traveled the world speaking to people about economic and racial injustice. Miss King was involved in founding many organizations, including the Black Leadership Roundtable, the Black Leadership Forum. In 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed legislation making a holiday to honor Dr. Martin Luther King. This was a direct result of Coretta Scott King's tireless efforts. She continued to fight for rights. Coretta Scott King fought for lesbian and gay rights. She also fought for nuclear disarmament, women's rights, children's rights, helping the homeless, and religious freedom among the people. She was fighting for countless rights until her passing on January 30th, 2006. Coretta Scott met Martin Luther King in Lincoln High School in 1954. Later started the civil rights movement. To honor her, to her horror, she was shocked in 1968 when Martin Luther King was fatally shot. She was devastated because of her husband's sudden death, but she didn't stay down for long. A quote of Coretta Scott King: "My story is a freedom song of struggles. It is about fighting for one's purpose, finding one's purpose, how to overcome fear, and to stand up for causes bigger than oneself." I definitely agree her life was a struggle, but she overcame fear.
Benton, that was very, very good. Most folks forget how Coretta Scott King was the driving force behind Martin Luther King. And it would have been easy for her to just give up once he was shot, but she didn't do that. She created his Archives Museum. She created and did a lot of things for people from that date on, and we tend to forget that. Thank you for reminding us, Benton. The next person is the elementary fine art winner, Nikki Back, a fifth grader in Mrs. Brown's class at Independence, who submitted a diorama titled Hidden Inspiration to represent Claudette Colvin's contribution. I'm interested to see what a diorama is. There we go.
My unsung hero that contributed to the civil rights movement is Claudette Colvin. She was the first black woman to refuse to give up her seat to a white passenger on a crowded, segregated bus on March 2, 1955. Later that year, on December 1st, 1955, her story inspired Rosa Parks to do the same, which began the Montgomery, Alabama bus boycott. Colvin didn't get the same attention as Parks because she was a pregnant teenager and unmarried. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People believed that Rosa Parks was a better candidate for seeing through a court challenge. But in reality, Claudette Colvin was the inspiration behind the Montgomery bus boycott and a true unsung hero. Thank you.
So this is a diorama, right? Okay. You created this yourself? I never heard that term before. So what does that do? It's like a small shoebox that gives an idea of what's going on? Pretty good. Nice idea, nice idea. Thank you, Nikki. Next, we have elementary essay winner Bryce Tamang, a fifth grader in Mrs. Baker's class at Cherokee. His essay was titled Unsung Little Rock 9 Essay. Come on up there, buddy.
Have you heard of Little Rock 9? If not, it's okay because they are unsung heroes of the civil rights movement. I will tell you all about what they did, who they were, what their impact on the civil rights movement was, and what they went through. Little Rock 9 are a group of 9 black kids, and they had a huge impact on the civil rights movement. They are considered unsung heroes because not a lot of people know about them, but I will tell you about them. In 1957, due to the Brown v. Board of Education of Topeka, segregation was ruled out by the Supreme Court of America. Due to that, 80 kids could apply to go to school and were able to go to an all-black school or an all-white school. Only 17 kids were selected and 8 wanted to go to an all-black school, but 9 students wanted to go to the all-white school called Little Rock 9, and but Little Rock 9 was formed. All members had gone only to black school before, so going to a white school was a first for them. The Little Rock 9 were told not to go to school on the first day of school. On the second day, they went to school, but they were blocked by government and by Governor Faber. They were sent by her because she thought it would destroy the school if they sent black people in Little Rock 9, because it used to be an only white school. The next day, they all agreed that we should try to come again all together, but Elizabeth Eckford, a member of Little Rock 9, did not hear it, though she went by herself, and she was pulled away by government. She was being pulled away next to a white cloud, and she could hear her threatening her, and some even spat on her. When they were finally able to enter Little Rock 9, it was tough because other students attacked Little Rock 9 members physically and mentally, and Minnie Jean Brown, a member of Little Rock 9, fought back against the bullies and was expelled. All of it caused President Eisenhower to Dekal to protect all members of Little Rock 9. After years of nothing but harassment, only one member of Little Rock 9 became a senior. All members of Little Rock 9 received the gold medal, which is a high honor to get. Little Rock 9 was a huge part of why black and white kids can go to school together. There were angry white protests about the decision, but as we can see today, many black and white kids can finally go to school together. There are many more unsung heroes of the civil rights movement that fought for equal rights, and Little Rock 9 was just one of them. That is the end of the Little Rock 9 story. In conclusion, Little Rock 9 was a huge part of the civil rights movement, and that we might not have white or black classmates if all members of Little Rock 9 were not brave and sturdy. Little Rock 9 was just one example of unsung heroes of the civil rights movement, and I hope it made you want to research more about unsung heroes about the civil rights movement.
Congratulations to our junior school level winners. Junior school English language learner essay winner Emily Kazakov, an 8th grader at Mrs. Whistler's class at Hopewell Junior, who wrote about Ruby Dee.
Imagine being in such a time where racial segregation in filmography is so powerful, but trying to live a dream while being a person of color in the 1960s. And that is what civil rights activist and brilliant actress Ruby Dee did. Although she was aware that playing an act in the civil rights movement could have a toll on her acting career, she wasn't afraid of speaking up for what was right. Her roles that she played, like Raisin in the Sun, helped eliminate racial exclusion. Ruby Dee is and was an African-American woman so powerful that she defied segregation and stereotypes in cinematography. Firstly, Ruby Dee was mostly known for her stunning acting in massive roles. Dee became the first black actress to perform leading roles at the American Shakespeare Festival in Stratford in the year 1965. Everyone was so astonished by her roles and believed she could play anything so effortlessly. Dee had always manifested racial equality to be portrayed in the performing arts. She started to be a reporter in the 1970s. I'm sick of being offended scripts about hookers or good nurses. Black women fall in love and have adventures and secrets are just as driven and gutsy as lots of white ladies in middle America. Imagine how Ruby Dee's acting impacted and empowered her critiques to be left in shock. Such talent for people who don't support you in the first place to be surprised by your work. Moreover, confidence and courage was always found in Ruby's voice when she was fighting for racial equality in the Civil Rights Acts. She stood beside Davis, her husband, who was also a person of color in the acting community. They both stood right next to Martin Luther King Jr. at the 1963 March on Washington, advocating about the importance of civil rights and social causes, and it lasted for more than half a century. including that they were friends and supporters of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Davis and Ruby Dee were the MCs of the entertainment event at the foot of Washington Monument that led to the March to the Lincoln Memorial. Dee stated that you can only appreciate freedom when you find yourself in a position to fight for someone else's freedom and not worry about your own. Although participating in the Civil Rights Act could have given both actors, Ruby Dee and Davis, a toll, they fought for what they believed was right with no shame. Furthermore, Ruby Dee and Davis met in 1964 when both of them were hired for the same Broadway production, and throughout their careers, they won a National Medal of Arts and a Grammy for with Ossie and Davis and Ruby in This Life Together, and they were also recipients of the Kennedy Center Honors in 2004. They got married in 1948, lasting for about 56 years until Davis died in the year 2005. The U.S. Secretary of State Colin L. Powell at the Kennedy Center stated that we thank you for both abiding commitment to your art, your commitment to each other, and your commitment to building a better America and a better world. Ruby and Davis were creating an artwork on stage for over 5 decades. The character they both built on stage and in history was appreciated by countless fans and people. Lastly, Ruby Dee died at 91 in 2014 and wanted everyone to be encouraged by her. Dee and her husband, Davis, both put a magnificent stand in the entertainment industry for Black people in the Civil Rights Movement, standing beside Martin Luther King Jr. while doing so. Helping illustrate the history, may they rest in peace. In conclusion, Ruby Dee played a massive role in the Civil Rights Act.
Junior school special merit essay winner Reese Dunham, an 8th grader at Miss Weber's class at Hopewell Junior, wrote a piece about the Student Nonviolent Coordination Committee.
Do you know that there is an organization called Students Nonviolence Coordination Committee? That is truly an unsung hero. They are a group that supported and helped in the overall success of the civil rights movement. They had former leaders such as Washington, D.C. Mayor Maura Berry, Congress John Lewis, and NAACP Chairman Joel Bond. The SNCC organization impacted the civil rights movement by organizing schools, aiding in sit-ins, and that were taking place and following Martin Luther King Jr.'s Guide of Nonviolence and Passive Stance. The SNCC helped organize 30 freedom schools for African American students to learn. They became nationwide after being used in South Africa when the civil movement was happening to help African Americans gain social, political, and economical equality. The SNCC, having 30 freedom schools, helped teach and educate the next generation. This is how the SNCC that was helping with learning, which was one of the many civil rights movement's goals. The SNCC helped organize sit-ins and help show how others could support the movement. Most of the time, they would organize people at lunch counters. Sit-ins are a way to peacefully protest again by gathering in public areas or building till protesters get what they want. Protesters would do this to slow down typical businesses or daily life. They would organize people and help by planning when it would happen. This would help people to know where and when to get there. This way, the SNCC helped because it brought awareness and showed how many people cared for the civil rights movement. The SNCC in the success of the civil rights movement by joining rallies following Martin Luther King's guidance on nonviolence. They were going to Martin's rallies and engaging in peaceful protests against segregation in libraries and hotels. They supported by organizing and going to rallies. The difference between rallies and sit-ins is that sit-ins are to disturb daily life in typical business, where rallies are to spread awareness and show how many people believe in something. Rallies were to convince the Supreme Court on making decisions against segregation. People would rally again together, and such examples of people that followed the guidance of nonviolence were people that were called freedom riders. The SNCC appointed for many students that were part of the freedom riders. By following the guidance of nonviolence, they helped show others that violence could not support change as much as nonviolence. The SNCC are unsung heroes that brought people the opportunity to support change. Without people who knew what they were fighting for and how best they could help, there would be no change. With the help of the SNCC and others, they helped inform and bring opportunities to help others show how they have power. Without the support from the people, there would be no civil rights movement and nothing would have happened.
Junior school essay winner Avery Weisenborn, an 8th grader in Miss Weber's class at Hopewell Junior, wrote a piece titled, "Changing the Unjust Way of the World."
Imagine yourself in a time when not everyone had equal rights. Every day you would be walking down the streets or even looking through your window, and you'd see many African Americans being treated like they weren't people. But it only takes one person to help change the unjust way of the world. And one person that helped to make this change was a civil rights activist named Whitney Young. He altered the way that people thought all the way up until the mid-19th century. Whitney Young was a very popular activist who was known for the many contributions that helped African Americans gain equal rights during the civil rights movement. From 1961 to 1971, Whitney Young made significant changes in the world. He did this by making the National Urban League a well-known name during the civil rights movement and by helping MLK with the Birmingham campaign along with participating in it with him. During the years 1961 to 1971, Whitney Young worked as an executive director at the National Urban League. The NUL was a place where many different kinds of people helped African Americans stand up for their own rights. This organization tried their best to help every individual African American have a worthy place in society. This would eventually lead up to them getting a better life. During Whitney Young's time working at the NUL, he transformed the small yet essential organization into an important leader in the civil rights movement. One thing Young did that helped change the organization completely was by giving African Americans hope and confidence to stand up for their own rights. He did this by participating in many protests, including the March on Washington, the Poor People's Campaign, and Marshall Plans. All of these protests were essential to African Americans, enabling the eventual result of equality. Through the organization, Young helped many African Americans get jobs and give them a better life. Some of the jobs that were given to African Americans were positions in the NUL. This was a game changer because even more African Americans could stand up for their own rights. By doing all of these things, Whitney Young made the National Urban League an essential organization in the civil rights movement. Whitney Young made a large impact on society by helping MLK with the Birmingham campaign. MLK and Young collaborated together looking for creative ways to stand up for the civil rights movement. They both agreed that they needed to do something publicly for a larger impact, so that way they will have more of a chance getting a result. They also wanted to do it publicly so more people would know about the protests. After considering these ones, they did a lot of thinking and came up with the Birmingham campaign. This event was a protest to make sure that people were aware of how badly African Americans are being treated. MLK and Young also wanted to make sure that everyone knew how important and current the situation was. The result of the Birmingham campaign was the government coming to an agreement in 1963 with the people who were involved in the protest. The government's decision was to release all the African American prisoners to make sure that businesses didn't hire on race, but instead on the most fit person for the job. In all, the Birmingham campaign was very successful and helped to lead the way to equality for all. In the end, Whitney Young was a very important and successful person who helped make big changes in the civil rights movement. Young helped make the National Urban League a leader in the civil rights movement. This allowed more African Americans to get jobs and helped spread the word about unjust ways African Americans are being treated. Young also helped MLK with the Birmingham campaign. This event helped to get many people's attentions
on how unfair African Americans are being treated. This gave Young and MLK answers and helped move society to a more equal place. Overall, Whitney Young was a person who had a great deal of impact, otherwise known as an unsung hero, a person who helped change our society in different ways. A very important quote from Whitney Young explains why he wanted to make a difference and help in the civil rights movement. The quote is, "Black power simply means, look at me, I am here, I have pride, I have roots. I insist, I demand that I participate in those decisions that affect my life and the lives of children. It means that I am somebody."
And let's see, was that Miss Avery that did that? Thank you for getting that essay there. I know you kind of misplaced it or something like that, but you were very thorough about that. Sometimes it just takes one person to start a movement, but when that person can empower other people, that movement gains speed, and I like the way you presented that. That was excellent. Now we are proud to recognize our high school level winners. High school special merit essay winner was Harry Connerty, a sophomore at Lakota East in Mr. Atkins' class who wrote about Rosa Parks. Is Harry here? I was informed that Harry may not be here, but you know, as high school kids have a lot of different things, but we'll make sure, and I know Mr. Miller will make sure he gets his award and everything. So, and then we're gonna move on to a high school essay winner, Wei Zhang Su, a Lakota West freshman in Ms. Booker's class who spotlights Grace Lee Boggs.
The March of Washington event commenced on August 28, 1963. While the Big Six, Martin Luther King Jr., James Farmer, John Lewis, A. Philip Randolph, Roy Wilkins, and Whitney Young, etched their places in history, other civil rights activists who also made significant contributions weren't recognized for their feats. One of them was an Asian American woman, Grace Lee Boggs. She was one of the non-black activists who played a vital role in the African American civil rights movement. On June 27, 1915, a young girl was born to two Chinese immigrant parents in Providence, Rhode Island. Her name was Grace Lee. At a very young age, her family moved to New York City, and she quickly became aware of racism. Her family was the only Chinese family in her neighborhood, and as a result, she felt alienated. In 1935, at the age of 20, Miss Lee graduated with a bachelor's degree in philosophy and would continue to receive a PhD in philosophy. When she tried to find a job, employers wouldn't hire her because of her race and ethnicity. When she finally found a job, her income was comparably low and she couldn't afford to rent an apartment. She ended up living in a rat-infested basement for free. Her civil rights accomplishments started when she moved to Chicago, where she met her husband and African-American civil rights activist James Boggs. She soon realized that African-American situation wasn't dissimilar to her own. Up to that point, she had some awareness of their plight, but explained that it was more of a statistical thing. She continued, but here in Chicago, I was coming into contact with it as a human thing. Later on, Ms. Boggs said that this was the first time she connected with African Americans. Ms. Boggs decided to actively take part in the famed March of Washington with other African American leaders. She also helped organize the 1963 March of Detroit with Martin Luther King Jr. Later on, she played a vital role in Detroit's Black Freedom movement. She helped by living and working in what was considered the epicenter of Black radicalism. Boggs started by protesting, writing, and organizing with other leaders involved in the civil rights movement. She started theorizing and believed that people could accomplish anything as long as they worked together positively. Grace Lee Boggs positively impacted the African American community, helping bring more rights to people of different races. Her ideas and actions aren't widely known but should be celebrated. These ideas and actions contributed to the foundation in which people of various races earn their rights and equality today. Boggs authored and co-authored several books, including Facing Reality, Revolution and Evolution in the 25th Century, and her biography, Living for a Change. She etched her place in history, earning a place in the National Women's Hall of Fame and Michigan Women's Hall of Fame. On October 5th, 2015, after her passing, President Barack Obama gave a speech about her and stated Grace's passion for helping others and her work to rejuvenate communities that had fallen in hard times spanned her remarkable 100 years of life and will continue to inspire generations to come.
a big congratulations to this year's overall grand prize winners. For fine arts, I am proud to introduce our grand prize winner, Santiago Gonzalez, a fifth grader at Freedom in Miss Millar's class. Santiago used a still frame video to share about Rosa Parks. I'm guessing we can show that video when this video goes out. We'll show that still video. So you'll get your moment in the sun then too. Congratulations. Our overall grand prize winner is Eliana Mosteller, a fourth grader at Miss Piontek's class at Independence, who wrote "That Girl That Made a Difference" to feature Linda Blackman Lowry.
The girl that made a difference. There is nothing more precious walking on this earth than you are. You are a child of God, so hold up your head and believe in yourself. Those words are from Linda Blackman Lowry, the youngest person to march every step of the way with Martin Luther King Jr. on the march in Selma. Hi everyone, my name is Eliana Mosteller. I got to know Linda Blackman Lowry by reading her book. She signed her book called Turning 15 on the Road to Freedom with a note to me and my sister. I think that her life story is amazing. My dad even got to go to Alabama and meet her. Most of what Linda fought for was the right to vote because she thought that once her parents got the right to vote, everything would be better. She was arrested 9 times before she turned 15, and she still kept going. The local leaders would plan 2 to 3 marches every day. When they held a march, the kids who were marching would go to school first to take attendance, and then their teachers would let them out the back door. These teachers were always on the child's side. When the children would march, there would usually be about 50 kids that were marching alongside Linda. Before the kids set out on the march, Linda said all the adults would tell them, "You're going to jail, do not fight back. You might be pushed, you might be hit. Just turn the other cheek, do not fight back. Don't worry about it, we'll take care of you." The police would let the kids march about 4 or 5 blocks. Then they would have to get on the bus. If you did not get on fast enough, you would get shocked with a cattle prod. On Bloody Sunday, Linda Blackman was beaten and had to get 35 stitches. 14 days later, on March 21st, 1965, she chose to march again because she wanted to show George Wallace, the governor, what the rules he had made had done to her. She wanted him to see with his own eyes the bandages on her head from where the stitches had been, and how he hurt her and the others who were beaten while marching alongside Linda. As they were marching, they sang things like, "Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, I'm gonna keep on a-walkin', keep on a-talkin', marchin' on to freedom land, and we shall overcome." There were a lot of people that came out of their houses yelling hurtful things, but the guards kept them away. On the 4th day of the march, thousands of people joined them as they were getting closer and closer to Montgomery. Then they reached Montgomery on March 25th, 1965. Linda felt awesome because she had finally done it.
There were more than 25,000 people marching with Linda. She said, "I learned that I was not alone, that there were a lot of people, white as well as black, who really cared about what happened to me, Linda Blackman, and to the black people of Selma, Alabama." From researching Linda Blackman Lowry, I learned that I can be a young child, but still do something that will change the world. Linda's words, the Selma movement was a kids' movement. You have a voice too, and with determination, you can be a history maker just like me. Those words stick with me. They inspire me to continue to speak for what I believe in.
Eliana, that was awesome. When I read that, I just couldn't believe that was somebody who was still in 4th grade. You know, I love that passion. Keep on walking, keep on talking. That is awesome, young lady. You know what you should do? You should tell your teacher, since you won everything, you need a pizza party for everybody there. Yeah, don't you think so? You know, Elia, I'll pay for it. My name is Ray Murray. You just tell them to get in touch with me, and I'll pay for it. You deserve it. You deserve it. That was awesome, young lady. Very good. We want to thank everyone who took the time to participate in this year's contest. We are proud of all of our winners. Every single student who got involved in this, we are proud of. And it is hard to get up here and talk. It is hard to get up in front of your peers and even your parents and talk. These kids did a wonderful job. Can we all give them a round of applause? Thank you, guys. Congratulations to everybody. Congratulations to everybody.
Thank you, students, for sharing such powerful stories. What an inspiration. Thank you also to each of the 625 students who entered the contest, to their teachers, principals, and parents who all encouraged, taught, and inspired them to think of people we do not usually associate with Martin Luther King Day, not yet, as well as those who were instrumental in helping the civil rights movement accomplish all that it did. You are the unsung heroes of today. All too often, we feel like what we do doesn't add up to too much. Events like this remind us that each little act of kindness or compassion shines a little more light into the world. Listen now as the community choir presents "This Little Light of Mine."
1, 2, 1.
It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Bernice Hamilton, as we celebrate the 24th annual Westchester and Liberty Township community observance of Live the Dream, our Declaration of Unity. Dr. Hamilton is a dedicated leader who has been a lifelong servant in our community as well as other communities. She has passionately modeled excellence, serving as a firefighter, an EMT, a pre-K to 12th grade administrator, and a language arts educator for grades 7 through 12. Currently, Dr. Hamilton is the director of the Center for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Title IX coordinator on Miami University's regional campuses. Her life's work, expertise in supporting our communities, and thoughtful research and efforts towards diversity, equity, and inclusion provide a strong foundation for the ongoing work of Dr. King. Please join me in extending a warm and grateful welcome to Dr. Bernice Hamilton.
Greetings. Thank you, Reverend Mickelson, for that wonderful introduction. Congratulations to all of our student contest winners. And thank you also to our community choir for rendering such beautiful selections. It is always an honor and a pleasure to be able to speak before those who have purpose. As we ponder our theme, Live the Dream, our Declaration of Unity, I want to take just a few moments to speak about the topic, what would Martin do, or if you allow the colloquial term, WWMD. But first, allow me to give you a little bit of a historical context. Most of us are familiar with Dr. King's 1963 I Have a Dream speech. That speech took place in the March on Washington for freedom, racial justice, and equality. That speech took place at the Lincoln Memorial. Most of us are familiar, again, with that speech, but most of us are less aware of King's writings around nonviolent social change. In Dr. King's writings, he left us 6 steps to follow to be nonviolent social change activists. This is what he said. Step 1, educate yourself. Immerse yourself in an issue that interests you and that you care about deeply. Learn everything you can about it. Read about it, talk to others about it, but also hear what the other side has to say. When you open yourself up to that possibility, you open yourself up to learning new things. Always stay curious and never stop learning. Step 2, after you have educated yourself, educate others. Share what you've learned with them. Be generous with your knowledge. In doing so, you will help others understand the injustice that is taking place. Find a group of passionate people who will work hard for your cause. Define your goals and create an action plan. Step 3, commit. Most of us have causes, but we find that when it gets to be a little bit challenging, we have a hard time sticking to it. Take root in your cause. Stay committed to what you care about. You will face challenges, you will face hardships along the way. Commitment to change is in itself a challenge. But stay true to your passion. Step 4, negotiate. Recognizing a shared humanity with your opponent will allow for open, honest, frank discussions. Try to propose solutions that will promote both fairness and mutual respect. Engage your allies to strengthen the voice of your social justice message. Step 5. Take direct action. When negotiation fails to achieve change, use nonviolent means to make it happen. This method of peaceful action can include boycotts, marches, rallies, letter writings, petition campaigns, and the like. And finally, step 6. Be open to reconciliation. Rejoice in the choice for change by fostering goodwill and forgiveness. While Dr. King left us a formula, a playbook of sorts, to follow towards justice and unity, I want to go back to the original question. WWMD, or what would Martin do? I believe that if Dr. King were alive today, this is what he would do. I think he would take a deep breath, look us squarely in the face, and ask us to ponder 2 simple questions. First, he would ask us, are you in? To be in means that you're prepared to challenge problematic norms, systemic injustices, and the status quo. Being in refers to the person who is willing to stand up for those who cannot get in and for those who are left out. Secondly, Dr. King would ask you, are you clued? Now, some people may have a problem, and I taught English as well, with the word clued, but look at it as opposed to being clueless. Here, the C is for committed. Committed to self-improvement, committed to changing the status quo, committed to something that takes us out of our comfort zones. Without this, we remain stagnant in a place of comfort, and we do not learn and grow intellectually and globally. LU, listen for understanding. My grandmother used to say, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should be listening twice as much. More often than not, we listen to respond. Spend more time listening than talking, as my grandmother said. Finally, ED. Embrace, exude, express diversity. Diversity comes in a variety of ways, including diversity of thought. You do not have to think like I do in order for you to support, accept, and respect me. You don't have to exemplify diversity in the plethora of ways that I do. Here, diversity comes in so many different ways. But if you break it down into its simplest form, it just means different. Not different only if. I will close by once again returning to the place where I began. What would Martin do? Martin, or Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., would challenge us to come together across difference and take an active role against injustice wherever and however it shows up. We must be intent to learn about the diversity that makes each of us unique individuals. This cultural competence is the knowledge that propels passionate people forward in their own fight for social justice. It is only then that we truly declare our unity. It is only then that change will take place. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton, for your challenging and encouraging message. What would Martin do? A question that will fuel our journey of justice and unity. I would like to take a moment to thank all of our sponsors, supporters, and the many volunteers who have made today's observance of Martin Luther King Day possible. Please remember that the organizers are holding a food drive to benefit the pantries at Reach Out Lakota and Faith Community Church throughout the months of January and February. Drop-off points for these items are at the Midpoint Library, at the Edge Teen Center, and both townships' administration offices. As part of our Continuing to Live the Dream celebration, please put February 27th at 6:30 on your calendar. Mr. Eric Gutag will present a free 1-hour lecture in honor of Black History Month in the community room at the Midpoint Library in Westchester Branch. The title of his talk is Dr. Ben's Gifted Hands, the triumphant story of America's famous pediatric neurosurgeon. All are welcome and invited to attend. You can keep track of these activities by visiting our website, Live the Dream WCL, or the Facebook page, which also is Live the Dream WCL. Let us close our time together with the song written specifically for this event 24 years ago and sung each year since, We Can Live the Dream.
We can live the dream. We can give the dream when we reach beyond our world to touch another's. We can live the dream. We can give the dream. Let us build a bridge of love and declare our unity by crossing over, reaching out our hand and showing love unto our fellow man. We can live the dream. We can give the dream when we reach beyond our world to touch another's. We can live the dream. We can give the dream. Let us build a bridge of love and declare our unity by crossing over, reaching out our hands and showing love unto our fellow man. We can live the dream. We can give the dream when we reach beyond our world to touch another's. We can live the dream. We can give the dream. Let us build a bridge of love and declare our unity. Let us build a bridge of love and declare our unity. Let us build a bridge of love and declare our unity. Let us build a bridge of love and declare our unity.
As we go, I offer a sending prayer entitled Prayer for the Tired, adapted from Laura Jean Truman. Let us pray. God, we are so tired We want to do justice, but the work feels endless and the results look so small in our exhausted hands. We want to love mercy, but our enemies are relentless, and it feels like foolishness to prioritize gentleness in this unbelievably cruel world. We want to walk humbly, but self-promotion is seductive, and we are afraid that if we don't look after ourselves, no one else will. We want to be kind, but anger feels insatiable. Holy One, in this never-ending wilderness, come to us and grant us grace. Grant us the courage to keep showing up to impossible battles. Grant us the vulnerability to risk loving our difficult and complicated neighbor, rejecting the lie that some people are made more in the image of God than others. Grant us humility and teach us your shalom. As we continue to take the single step that is in front of us, keep us from becoming what we are called to transform. Protect us from using violence in our words, in our theology, in our activism, and in our politics as we work for your kingdom of peace. Keep our anger from becoming meanness. Keep our sorrow from collapsing into self-pity. Keep our hearts soft enough to keep breaking. Keep our outrage turned towards justice, not cruelty. Remind us that all of this, every bit of it, is for love. Keep us fiercely kind. Amen. Go now in God's peace and strength to serve. Amen.